Hare Krishna, dear devotees. We welcome you all to our midweek program. We are nearing the Gita Jayanti Mahotsava, which is coming up next week. And we are also, during this series, we are discussing the different devotees of the Lord who are not part of the 12 Mahajans, but like a follow up to the 12 Mahajans, where we're glorifying all the different devotees in our scriptures, be it from the Bhagavatam or Ramayana or other places. And the personality that we will be discussing today is Gajendra, the Elephant King. And to discuss this, we have Her Grace Gita Mataji, who's coming fresh off a wonderful trip from Vrindavan, completely rejuvenated, and she's going to share the glories of Gajendra. I think Mataji doesn't require too much introduction, but just
No, I'm not giving
our
the class.
duty
I'm listening.
To introduce her. She has been a long-standing member of our community, and she guides many devotees in the community, has Bhakti Rakshas, children's classes, so many other activities that she heads. So we welcome her and we kindly request her to enlighten us on this amazing devotee, Sri Gajendra. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So today's topic, the glories and prayers of Gajendra. Actually, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, chapters 2, 3, and 4, they describe how Lord protected this elephant king Gajendra, who was attacked by the crocodile, and how Gajendra finally surrendered to the Lord. So in the 8th canto, we see in chapter 2, the description is there about Gajendra's crisis, the situation that he's in. And in chapter 3, it's about the prayers, the beautiful prayers he offers to the Supreme Lord. And finally, in chapter 4, we see how Gajendra returns back to the spiritual world. So, as per Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a nice description given that in the midst of the ocean of milk is a mountain called Trikut. And in that valley, there is a garden which was actually created by Varuna, and it's called Ritumat Garden. And over there is a very nice, beautiful lake with lotus flowers, etc. So one day, Gajendra, who was the chief of elephants, he went into this lake to enjoy with the family, his wives and children. And Gajendra actually was a very powerful elephant, very, very powerful. And so when he was enjoying in that lake with his family, a very nice point is mentioned there, that just like, some human beings who lack spiritual knowledge, then they get too attached to the family and then they fall into illusion or maya. Gajendra's position was the same. He was so attached to his family and there was lack of knowledge. So he was totally in illusion and his whole life was about enjoying with the family. So when he was enjoying with the family in that water, in that lake, there was so much commotion. He was very big, big elephant, powerful. So when he was having fun there, he actually disturbed the water over there. And when that happened, the chief crocodile got very angry, who was, the chief crocodile who lived there in that lake, was very angry because of all that disturbance in the lake. So the crocodile attacked Gajendra, got hold of the leg. Now Gajendra, he thought he was very powerful, he could fight the crocodile and, set himself free. He thought he was the king, king of the jungle or whatever. But he tried, and he just could not. It is said that their fight continued for 1,000 years. Now, since the crocodile is the jiva of the water, he was becoming more and more strong. He was in the water in his constitutional position. Whereas it was the opposite for Gajendra. He was the jiva of the land. And so he was getting weaker and weaker in the water. Imagine, when people fight for maybe a few minutes or a few hours, they get tired. And here they fought for 1,000 years. Now, when the crocodile saw that the Gajendra has started feeling weak, the crocodile became more encouraged. He said, okay, looks like I'm going to win this war. But finally, Gajendra, he could understand that even his family is unable to save him. He started feeling helpless. He was diminished in mental strength, physical strength, and a thought struck him that it's possible he may die, he may get killed. And as soon as that thought came, it's very natural for human beings too, whenever the human beings are in danger or they feel the threat to their life or they think they are going to die or whatever, the first thing they think of is the Supreme Lord. Because they know that's the only shelter. So here, Gajendra, when he saw that, probably his end is coming very close, he's nearing death, he might be killed, then he sought shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Now, for an elephant to take shelter of the Supreme Lord is unusual, because animals don't have that, philosophical intelligence, or they don't have the spiritual knowledge. They don't have really the association of devotees. They don't really understand. So how is it that Gajendra thought of the lotus feet of the Lord? That is because formerly Gajendra was King Indradyumna, a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. And he was the king in the province of Dravid, which is, of course, South India, and was a very powerful king. But above all, was a great devotee of the Lord. So he decided that, he had ruled the kingdom enough, he had done whatever was necessary, and now he decided he needs to retire. So King Indradyumna, he retired from his family life and he went, to a secluded place, and he built a small cottage. And it is said he built this cottage in Malayachala Hills. And the whole purpose was so that he could dedicate his life, the remaining part of his life, in worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And above all, he decided to do this in silence, which means not talk. Srila Prabhupada talks about this a couple of times, about Mauna Vrat, where someone decides not to speak. Of course, Srila Prabhupada encouraged, the devotees to not think about Mauna Vrat and, but instead preach, use our abilities to spread Krishna consciousness. But here King Indradyumna, he wanted to worship the Supreme Lord in silence. So one day he was meditating, of course, in silence. Obviously, we meditate in silence, but the point is that he decided not to speak. So when he was in meditation, at that time, Agastya Muni approached the king's ashram. along with his disciples. Now the king was meditating, so he did not receive the sage properly. What does this remind us of? It reminds us of Parikshit Maharaj when he entered the ashram where the sage was meditating and didn't even notice that Parikshit Maharaj had come. But Parikshit Maharaj felt offended. And we see the same thing here. Agastya Muni, he felt offended that you haven't received me properly. So the sage got angry and cursed King Indradumna that I curse you to become a dull elephant. And that is how in this life, King Indradumna was born as the powerful elephant Gajendra. Now, Gajendra, excuse me, he had forgotten his previous life. But at the time when he was attacked by the crocodile and he realized that he might get killed, he remembered his past life. And not only that, he remembered his prayer. Excuse me, he remembered the prayer he had learned. And because of that prayer, he received the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So immediately he started chanting the prayer to himself. First, just like we, offer obeisances to the spiritual master, to the Supreme Lord, similarly, Gajendra first offered obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not only that, he expressed his inability to recite the prayers nicely. Yet, he tried to chant and express himself. It is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam that Gajendra, he fixed his mind and his heart with perfect intelligence. Excuse me, with perfect intelligence and chanted a mantra that he had learned in his previous life. So let's see what are his prayers, his beautiful prayers. He says, my dear Lord, you are the cause of all causes. And this reminds us of Brahma Samhita, where in the very first verse, Lord Brahma states, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karana. That Krishna, you are the cause of all causes. And he says, oh Lord, you are the original person and everything emanates from you. That reminds us of Bhagavad-Gita chapter 10. Aham sarvasya prabhava mataha sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajantena. Krishna says to Arjuna in Bhagavad-Gita that everything emanates from me. And we see here Gajendra, he's talking of the same knowledge. And then he says, oh Lord, you reside in Goloka, where you are engaged in your eternal pastimes. And everything works under your direction. And this we learned even in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Maya Dakshina Prakriti Suyate Se Characharam. That material energy is working under my direction, O Arjuna. But here we see that so he says that it is difficult for non-devotees to understand this. Only pure devotees can perceive the presence of the Supreme Lord. And he says, oh Lord, you are free from the miseries of birth, disease, old age, and death. So if one takes shelter of you, my Lord, that person becomes transcendentally situated. What a beautiful prayer. So it says that, oh Lord, You're free from birth, disease, old age, and death. And if one takes shelter, then one becomes transcendentally situated. And Gajendra continues with his prayers and he says, O Lord, your appearance and activities are not material at all. Again, Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvata tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. That Krishna says, anyone who understands the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not take birth after giving up this body. So here Gajendra is praying the same. He says, anyone who understands your appearance and activities which are not material, they are the ones who are able to go back to Godhead. Anyone who understands this will be able to go back to Godhead. These are really beautiful prayers. We can see how Gajendra was so self-realized. I mean, he had so much knowledge. He says, O Lord, you're situated in everyone's heart. Chapter 15 of Bhagavad-Gita, Sarva Sechaham, Hridi Sanivishto, Mataha Smritir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. Krishna himself says the same thing. Yes, I'm situated in everyone's heart. And from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So Gajendra is continuing with his prayers and he says, you're the controller, you're the witness, and you're the original source of all living entities. When I was reading these prayers in Canto 8, I was like, is Gajendra reciting Bhagavad Gita? Because he seems to be, speaking the same, giving the same knowledge, or his prayers are the same as it is there in the Bhagavad Gita. And then he continues and he says, all are parts of you, my Lord. Mamai Vamsha Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Lord, you are the source of all knowledge, and you are the one who can give us liberation. So it becomes our duty to understand Krishna. And that also based on the instructions of the spiritual master and advanced devotees. And to do that, it's important to have association. And that is what we are doing right now. On Zoom, we are associating with each other. So association of devotees helps us to learn and to grow spiritually. And it is only the pure devotees, it's only the spiritual master, it is only the Supreme Lord who can help us to become free, who can help us to come out of illusion or Maya. So continuing with the prayers of Gajendra, he says that, my Lord, your form is adored and it is understood only by devotees. And it is only you who can dissipate the darkness through spiritual knowledge. Talking about dissipating darkness, when I was in Vrindavan, I heard this very nice story by Sachinandana Maharaj, which he gave in a Bhagavatam class there in Vrindavan. And he was talking about dissipating darkness, or, getting rid of darkness or removing darkness. So he said that there was a family who were very disturbed because it was dark and they couldn't see each other, and they started thinking, how can we get rid of this darkness? So they decided to take big sticks, and they took the sticks and they started swishing the sticks in the air, whoosh, 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 like that, thinking that they can get rid of the darkness like that, like they are trying to drive away darkness. But what happened in the end, they hurt each other and they were injured. This is not how darkness is dissipated. Darkness is removed with the help of knowledge. And that is what Krishna tells Arjuna in the Bhagavad-Gita, that you should slash this ignorance with the sword of knowledge. So here Gajendra is saying, by the causeless mercy of yourself, you are the one who rescue the conditioned souls. And there is great hope of liberation from this material world because you can do that liberation. You can give liberation. And what does a pure devotee desire or aspire? A pure devotee just, is not just aspiring that let me go back to Godhead, no, the pure devotee is satisfied just serving the Supreme Lord, does not ask for anything. Its only prayer is to be freed from the bodily concept and to be engaged in loving devotional service of the Lord. That's all. Now, an important point. Gajendra, he is praying to the Lord and saying, since an animal like me, that means he has that much intelligence to understand that he is in an animal body. And he says, since an animal like me has surrendered to you, you will certainly release me from this danger. I'm in danger and I'm praying to you. And that is a very smart prayer. It's like telling the Supreme Lord that, I have surrendered and I'm quite certain that you will release me from this danger. And the best part is he says, once I am released from this attack, once I am safe from this attack, I do not wish to live anymore. What is the use of living? Because internally, I am covered by ignorance. So Gajendra is recognizing that I am in an animal body and internally I am in ignorance. I simply desire liberation from ignorance, which means I don't want to remain ignorant. I want to be self-realized. Now, Gajendra, he did not invoke demigods. He did not pray to the demigods. So demigods did not come to help him. He only prayed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is why Lord Vishnu appeared before him. This is how Gajendra offered prayers. And he offered prayers directly to the Supreme Lord. And that is why the Lord directly came to Gajendra personally. He came on Garuda personally. Now, Gajendra, of course, because he was caught by the crocodile, his leg was caught by the crocodile, and this fight lasted for 1,000 years, he was feeling acute pain, which is very natural. He was in a lot of pain. His leg was bleeding and Gajendra was getting weaker and weaker and weaker and losing hope. But when he saw the Supreme Lord, he forgot about his pain. And immediately he took a lotus flower, lifted his trunk, and offered that lotus flower to the Supreme Lord. And the Lord was very pleased. Lord Vishnu immediately pulled him out of the water along with the crocodile. And with his Sudarshan Chakra, he killed the crocodile and rescued Gajendra. And Lord Vishnu said that freed from all sinful reactions are those who fully concentrate their minds with great attention upon my form. A very good instruction for anyone who wants to become free from all sinful reactions. Fully concentrate the mind with great attention upon the form of the Lord. And that is what Krishna says in the Bhagavad-Gita also, chapter 18, verse 66. Sarva dharman parityagya Mam ekam sharanam vraja. Aham tuam sarva papebhyo. He says, I'll remove all the sinful reactions, provided one surrenders to Krishna alone. And what does surrender mean? Surrender mean to fully concentrate our minds with great attention. And because Gajendra was touched directly by Lord Vishnu, immediately he became freed of ignorance and bondage. And he got Sarupya Mukti, which means he got the same bodily features as the Lord. Now the question may arise, who was this crocodile? Who was he in his previous life? How did he become a crocodile? And Bhagavatam states that this crocodile in the previous life was King Huhu. He was the best of Gandharvas.
He was just evil.
Someone's microphone is on. Okay, so he said this crocodile, the Bhagavatam says that this crocodile was King Huhu, best of Gandharvas who lived in Gandharvaloka. And he was cursed by Devala Rishi. But then King Huhu, who was now a crocodile, was delivered by Lord Vishnu because he was killed by Lord Vishnu with the Sudarshan Chakra. And because of that, he assumed the Gandharva form again and he returned back to Gandharvaloka. So this is what this crocodile was in his previous life. And he got delivered. Of course, Gajendra also got delivered. So Shukadev Goswami, he describes the good fortune of Gajendra. And he says, by hearing this narration about Gajendra, one can be delivered. Not only that, one will be unaffected by contamination of Kali Yuga. And one will never see bad dreams. Not only that, one will gain reputation as a devotee. So many benefits of just hearing this pastime of Gajendra and Lord Vishnu. In text 25, the Supreme Lord says, my dear devotee, unto those who rise from bed at the end of night, which means at Brahma Muhurat, and offer me the prayers offered by you, which means by Gajendra, the Lord says, I give an eternal residence in the spiritual world at the end of their lives. How beautiful. When I was living in Mumbai, this is many, many years ago, in the neighborhood, one of my neighbors came rushing to my house and knocked on the door, banging on the door, please open, please open. So when I opened, I said, what's happened? So she said, my mother-in-law is about to leave her body. Can you please come and read about Gajendra Moksha? It is said that anyone who hears about Gajendra Moksha at the time of death will go back to Godhead. And this was such a long time ago. I had no idea that this is there in the Bhagavatam. And she had that knowledge, even though she was not Krishna conscious, but maybe from somewhere or somebody she had heard that, one can go back to Godhead, but just by hearing this narration. So I went down, she was on the third floor. I went down to her house and she had the Bhagavatam. And I read the Gajendra Moksha at that time, and that was the first time I read about it. So here it is said, Krishna himself, the Lord, Supreme Lord, Lord Vishnu is saying that, my dear devotee, unto those who rise from bed at the end of night and offer me the prayers offered by you, which means prayers of Gajendra. He says, I give an eternal residence in the spiritual world at the end of their lives. So this is the benefit of hearing the beautiful prayers of Gajendra. Now, Gajendra, it is mentioned that Gajendra, he had a lordly character, which means he the way he walked and all was like, I am the Lord, kind of, that kind of character. And he roamed about nonchalantly, and he fought valiantly with the crocodile. So he was a very powerful elephant. It was not just a dull elephant, it was really powerful, and was very like it is mentioned that lordly character, like someone who thought that I am all in all, I am the Lord, I am the controller. But when he was in danger, he remembered the Vedic hymns from his previous life. And of course, he surrendered, he offered prayers, and he just didn't offer prayers just because he was in danger. No, he offered the prayers with utmost sincerity. This is very important. When we pray to the Lord, for us, praying to the Lord is chanting the holy names. When we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, that Prabhupada says is our prayer to the Lord, begging him to engage us in his service. So that should be done with utmost sincerity, which means with full attention. So attentive chanting is very important. And how beautiful, as soon as Gajendra saw Lord Vishnu, he offered a lotus flower at the lotus feet of the Lord. So when we hear the prayers of Gajendra, we can see that his prayers show that such a great devotee he was in his previous life. And Shukadev Goswami, he addresses Gajendra as Shri Gajendra. Now we know that Shri, that prefix Shri, is offered only to elevated personalities. And this is not a small recognition. This is, a really big, giving a big status to that person. So Sukadev Goswami addresses Gajendra as Shri Gajendra. Such is the power of surrender. So what do we learn from Gajendra? We learn from Gajendra that it doesn't matter how powerful we are. It doesn't matter how beautiful or how rich or how famous we are or how strong we are. It does not matter at all. Until and unless we take that mood of surrender, until and unless we understand the basic knowledge of the Bhagavad-Gita that I am not this body, until and unless we understand our constitutional position as the servant of the Lord and that we are meant to serve Krishna, until and unless we take the process given to us by Srila Prabhupada very seriously. All this will be possible only when we first of all become Prabhupada conscious. Krishna consciousness is very far away. It's a far away goal for us. First of all, we need to become conscious of the devotees around us. See how we can serve them. See how we can please them. How we can get benefit of association of the devotees. Then when we become devotee conscious, then we can become Prabhupada conscious. Try and understand, read Srila Prabhupada's books scrutinizingly, read Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrita, and see how many struggles he had to go through just so that today we can comfortably sit in our homes and read or hear Srimad Bhagavatam. He has done all the work, hard work for us. He has done all those translations, sleeping only 2 or 3 hours every day, struggled so hard to get these books printed, struggled so hard to come to the US and give us this simple process of Krishna consciousness. So it's important that we become Prabhupada conscious. We become conscious. We think of him every day and be grateful to him every day for giving us Krishna consciousness. So these are the glories and prayers of Gajendra. And, we can pray that maybe Sri Gajendra can bless us so that we can learn how to surrender to the Supreme Lord. Surrender is a very heavy word. It is, surrender, it is not just what you call something that you just say, oh, I surrender. No. Surrender it means that we use everything that we have in the service, following the instructions of Guru and Krishna, following the instructions given to us by Srila Prabhupada. That is how we can surrender. Surrender is not just doing a Dandavat Pranam or folding hands. No, that's not surrender. Following the instructions. And what are the instructions that Srila Prabhupada is given, or Lord Krishna is given, or the spiritual master gives? It's the same instructions. Same instructions. Chant, read, associate, eat only prasadam, follow the regulative principles, give this knowledge to others, preach. This is a Gita Jayanti month. And soon we will be celebrating the Gita Jayanti day. And in the 18th chapter, Krishna has informed us, he's given us knowledge that anyone who distributes my knowledge, gives my knowledge to others, is most dear to me. So if we really want to become most dear to our spiritual master, to Srila Prabhupada, to Lord Krishna, then this is a wonderful opportunity to distribute Krishna consciousness, to distribute at least the Bhagavad-Gitas in this month. It should be done year round, but at least in this month, try and somehow or the other give Bhagavad-Gita to someone. You never know. So many lives can be changed just by getting Srila Prabhupada's book. Srila Prabhupada said that when we speak to someone, when we are preaching to someone for a few minutes, that's just for a few minutes. But when we give a book to someone, then that book goes to their home and Srila Prabhupada preaches to them on a daily basis. How very powerful. So we can see how Gajendra, he was such a fortunate soul. Of course, he was King Indradumna in his previous life, who had given up being a king, being so opulent, had everything, power, fame, opulence, everything, but gave up all of that. Understood that the goal of life is not just, enjoying the senses or, accumulating possessions and all that. No, he understood. So he gave up his family life. He retired from family life. Srila Prabhupada has said that up to the age of 25, you stay brahmachari, then get married, and you stay in grahastha life till the age of 50. Then at the age of 50, retire. Go into the next ashram, which is vanaprastha. And then at age 75, maybe sannyas, maybe not. But this is how it is recommended in the scriptures. And this is how Srila Prabhupada has also explained to us. So King Indradumna, he understood He gave up his family life. He retired, went in Vanaprastha. And he went, and started worshipping the Supreme Lord in silence. But it was the pastime of the Lord that Agastya Muni had to come and had to curse him to become a dull elephant. And then this dull elephant Gajendra, whom Shukadev Goswami says Sri Gajendra, was in that situation. Now he was enjoying life, with wives and children. He thought he is the Lord of all he surveys. But then when he was in that difficult situation where his leg was caught by the crocodile, that's when he realized he's not really powerful. And fortunately, because of his past piety, he was able to remember his prayers from the previous life. And such beautiful prayers he offered, glorifying the Supreme Lord, and praying to the Lord that, yes, I am in ignorance. And now that I have surrendered unto you, I'm begging you to please remove my ignorance. That's what we chant, right? Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Umintam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. It is the Guru, the spiritual master, bona fide spiritual master, who can remove the darkness with the torchlight of knowledge. So let us pray to Sri Gajendra that he can bless us so we can also learn how to surrender to the Supreme Lord. Sri Gajendra ki jai. So I'll stop here. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you very much for the wonderful class describing Gajendra's prayers to the Lord and also the lessons we can learn and how we can act, taking the example of Prabhupada as well. So it was really enlightening to all of us. So, any of you devotees, if you have any questions, you can please raise your hand and you can either ask Mataji directly or you can also type in your question in the chat and we can ask it for you. So we just give it a minute, and if you have any questions, yeah, please feel free to raise your hands. Mataji, I have one question which was sent in to me by Karthik Kripa Prabhu. So he was mentioning King Indrayumna. It was something so simple, like he didn't intend to cause an offense, but he was still cursed. But many of us, we make so many errors in services or things like that. So what about, is it so simple to be cursed? And what about all the offenses that we make? It's probably countless offenses that we make. So how would we deal with such a situation for ourselves in our position?
That is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says we have to be very, very careful. Because offending, especially a devotee, can really destroy our spiritual life. He gives a nice example of a mad elephant that can destroy a rose garden by, just going and squashing, all the roses and everything. So you have to be very careful. And offenses, can also be mental. It may not be just verbal or physical, it could be mental also. We may think ill of any devotee. That also is an offense, and that can hamper our devotional, our spiritual life. So we got to be very, very careful. And Prabhupada explains, I'm giving you the example of Parikshit Maharaj. We've learned in Srimad Bhagavatam, where Parikshit Maharaj also, was cursed. But then Parikshit Maharaj did not take an offense to that. He took that as a mercy of the Lord. So it is explained that because Parikshit Maharaj was cursed to die in 7 days, that is how, we were able to get Srimad Bhagavatam, because Shukadev Goswami came and, Parikshit Maharaj asked this question, what should one do who's about to die in 7 days? And the whole Srimad Bhagavatam was recited for our benefit. The same is with Arjuna. Arjuna was pure devotee of the Lord, but he was put in that condition where he pretended to be ignorant and didn't want to fight, and so Bhagavad-Gita was respoken. You see, so these are the pastimes of the Lord that are arranged by him for our benefit. So we can learn from these. We can learn from not only the pastimes of the Lord, but the pastimes of his devotees also. Like we learn from the pastime of Gajendra. You see? So here it was not the fault of King Indradumna at all. He was meditating, he was worshipping in silence. It's not that he deliberately offended the sage, right? But we have to be very, very careful when we are dealing, especially with devotees. Why just devotees? With anybody? We should be careful not to offend anyone, either mentally, physically, or verbally. Got to be very careful, because we need to protect our spiritual lives very, very closely, like, put a fence around our spiritual life. I think there are 2 questions.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Sorry, I was on mute. We have Divya Agarwal, Mataji. Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Mathaji.
Hare Krishna.
I wanted to ask that if we find ourselves in the same situation as Gajendra, like in a dangerous situation, and we call out to Krishna for help, and we feel like, the Lord doesn't appear, in that situation, what should we do?
I had heard something very nice. I don't know who had said it, that Krishna hears our prayers, but he answers them at his time, not our time, not when we want him to answer those prayers. So what was your question again? I forgot. I was thinking about this sentence.
Like when we are in that dangerous situation like Gajendra was, and he called out to Krishna, and we find ourselves in a dangerous situation, and we call out to Krishna, and Krishna doesn't appear, or doesn't, we feel like we're not getting help. For that situation, what should we do?
We should continue to pray. We should continue to pray, because whatever situation we are in, whether it is good, bad, whether it is dangerous or whatever, it is all because of our past karma. We're just going through our past karma. And it is said that what is happening in present is our past karma, but what we are doing now in present is going to decide our future. So we must just continue to pray sincerely. 2 things are very important in spiritual life. One is sincerity and one is seriousness. These 2 S's are very important. So we just continue to, and Krishna says, Name bhaktya pranashyati, that my devotee never perishes. He gives a guarantee, and he tells Arjuna, you declare it boldly, Name bhaktya pranashyati, which means my devotee will never perish. So have faith in Krishna and just continue your devotional service.
Okay, thank you, Mataji.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mataji. Next, we have Shubham, Mataji. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for your wonderful class, Mataji. My question is that, Agastya Muni cursed Gajendra in his previous life, and, it may appear that it was a harsh punishment, but can we actually see that this was really a benediction, since Gajendra was actually able to surrender to the Lord and receive his mercy in this special way? Yeah, and then, sorry, I just have one more part to that, but please go ahead.
Yes, that's true. And then he got the Sarupya Mukti, he went back to Godhead.
Sure, yes. So I guess then, Mataji, if this does seem to be the case, how can we, or at least me, fallen soul, really see certain life events as benedictions coming from the mercy of Krishna, rather than really seeing them as setbacks or obstacles?
Yes. So Srila Prabhupada also says that the devotees, they always, no matter what situation they are in, whatever comes their way, they take that as a blessing of Krishna. They always, they are in that consciousness that everything that is happening is for our own good. Krishna is doing it for our own good. It may be to teach us a lesson. It may be to make us more humble. It could be to make us more tolerant. So all these situations, the devotees always thank Krishna. Prabhupada says that the devotees, they thank Krishna that maybe I deserved a lot more, a lot more suffering, but because of your mercy, I'm you can say the punishment or the misery is reduced because of the mercy of the Supreme Lord, because a devotee is on the spiritual path. So this is the consciousness if we have, then we will not really get disturbed.
Thank you so much.
Very important points. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate the answer, and I'll definitely try to keep this in mind. Thank you, Mataji.
I also try to keep it in mind.
Thank you very much, Mataji, for that question. There's another question that has also come in, which is, often we see stories like Gajendra where animals are able to partake in chanting and devotional service. Even devotees nowadays tend to chant for animals or give their pets prasadam, etc. What kind of benefit do they get by these actions, and what can they actually perceive?
Yes, I remember either reading or hearing where Srila Prabhupada says that when we do that, when we are merciful to the animals this way, then at least they get a human life in the next birth. This is what I had heard.
Thank you, Mataji. And I personally had a question. You were mentioning about Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Braja. So Krishna says that you completely surrender unto me, and you don't worry about anything else. But the surrender requires some faith, correct? So how does one develop that faith? Especially when we hear stories like Gajendra and things like that. I mean, we hear stories, but regular people or even devotees sometimes it's hard to perceive these things because like even like Prahlad Maharaj, like they're just devotees from childhood and things like that. But we find it so hard to develop that faith in the Supreme Lord. So, how do we understand? How do we get to that point of complete surrender to the Supreme Lord, where we are not expecting anything? We just are able to just completely give ourselves to Him.
Yes. So you said we require some faith. Actually, we require firm faith. Not just some faith, but firm faith. And that Prabhupada says is possible when we associate with devotees. Association is very, very, very important. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. So by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, we get that seed of devotion. And that seed of devotion is sown in the heart, but then we water it with chanting the holy names. But at the same time, we need to remove the weeds, which are, the anarthas, unwanted things in our heart. And we need to have a fence around it to protect it. And that fence is association of devotees. So when we associate with devotees, especially with advanced devotees, then what happens, advanced devotees, their faith is very firm. They are very strongly fixed in Krishna consciousness, and they are following the path of Krishna consciousness very seriously and sincerely. So that rubs off on us. So when we associate with advanced devotees, and Prabhupada says 99% of our progress depends on chanting. So when we chant attentively, then everything falls in place. Then there will be a desire to associate with devotees. Then there'll be a desire to preach, a desire to advance spiritually. So in answer to your question, is the association.
Thank you very much, Mataji. If there are no other questions, we will then move on to the announcement. Oh, we have one more question. Brett Hoffman, Prabhu, please go.
Hare Krishna, Mother Gita. Please accept my humble
Hare Krishna,
obeisances.
Brett. Hare Krishna.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories.
Just reflecting on the questions I asked, and Mother Gita, in the beginning of your lecture, you spoke on how, even the non-devotee has these moments where they realize Krishna through fear. One of the devotees was asking questions, do we see these challenges or these changes in life as just obstacles? And I was thinking, when you mentioned fear, Mother Gita, we always talk about how fear is an emotion we must cast aside. But I feel like in our anarthas and, our day-to-day struggles, I feel like fear is an emotion we must be aware of, first and foremost, to be able to overcome it and, get our path back on Krishna. Could you speak more on, how one can cast fear aside, but how, when we are caught up in our anarthas, how fear can even, help us get back to Krishna?
Yes, Srila Prabhupada says that it is good to have a fear, a little bit of fear, especially of death. Then we'll become more serious in Krishna consciousness, because if we don't have any fear, then our life will be eat, sleep, and be merry. So yes, fear is good, but we can overcome fear again if we read Srila Prabhupada's books and we hear his lectures. He stresses a lot on association of devotees. He talks a lot about that. So when we associate with advanced devotees, then what happens? Then we start becoming more serious. Then we read more, we chant properly, we distribute this knowledge to others. Then we follow regulative principles more seriously. It's just that it's like trying to follow in their footsteps. Just like Srimad Bhagavatam talks about 12 Mahajanas, right? Swayambhu Narada Shambhu Kumara Kapilo Manu, Prahlad Janaka Bhishma Bali Vyasaki Vayam. These are the 12 Mahajanas, great personalities, and we are told to follow in their footsteps. So for us, in the beginning, we can start following the footsteps of advanced devotees. And main thing is, as Sadanand Prabhu also was talking about that verse from Bhagavad-Gita 1866, Sarva Dharman Paritagya. It is very easy to recite this verse. It's very easy to give the translation, but when it comes to practicals, it is kind of hard. Why? Because there's so much fear. There's fear, what is going to happen tomorrow? There's fear, what about my family? What about my job? Fear is there. There's so many different kinds of fear. But all this can come to rest when we associate with advanced devotees. I am so grateful to Mr. Zoom. He has made it possible for us to associate even in the times of COVID. We can associate with devotees. We can, talk about Krishna Katha. We can read Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, Mr. Zoom ki jai. Yes, absolutely. So we can do that when we associate. Association is very, very, very important. As I was saying on Monday also in the class, I don't know whether I said it on Monday or not, but just as it is said, an apple a day keeps doctor away, one Bhagavatam class a day keeps Maya away. So if we can hear Srimad Bhagavatam class, or we can, hear from a devotee, or we can hear from Srila Prabhupada, or we can read Srimad Bhagavatam scrutinizingly, then all these fears will go away. Is that okay, Brett?
Hare Krishna, Mother Gita. No, thank you so much. As you said, it's that association of of senior devotees who, we not only associate with, but we feel as if we can confide in confidently, and learning from these senior devotees, and as Srila Prabhupada says, example is better than precept. So learning from the example of their life, walking in their footsteps without, exactly mimicking, want to carry the quality of the mood that this devotee may carry. It's very beneficial in overcoming fear. Just having those discussions, simple things in life. We can be fearful of the most. Just something like, what are your children going to be like someday? But thank you so much, Mother Gita. Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mataji. I think we had a wonderful question answer session, wonderful questions by the devotees who have been keenly listening to the class, and wonderful answers to guide us in the right direction, Mataji. Once again, we would like to thank you for enlightening us today. I know you had a really long trip, and
Thank you.
hopefully we didn't drag you in too quickly. But
No, not at all. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna,
Hare
devotees. So
Krishna.
now we just have a quick few announcements before we wrap up for the day. Just give me a second. So, coming this Sunday is our regular Sunday feast program. We will have more announcements regarding the speaker, etc., coming up on our groups. So, stay tuned to all updates that will be posted. As usual, our program starts at 3:45 in the evening, and we start with Tulsi Aarti, followed by Gaura Aarti, a Katha, and Prasadam to close. Also, next week, as we were mentioning, is the advent of Bhagavad-Gita, the song or the instruction spoken by Lord Krishna to Arjuna, but actually for all of humanity. Arjuna was the medium through which all of us got this wonderful knowledge known as the Bhagavad Gita, and we see it being used in many facets of everyone's lives today. So we will have more details coming up regarding that program. Also, we'll have a Gita Yajna. The plan is to have it the following Sunday, which is December 19th, in the evening, where we have a massive fire, a Yajna. We will also be chanting all the verses from the Gita. So please stay tuned for updates on those as well. The advent of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which is December 14th, is also Ekadashi, known as Mokshada Ekadashi. And the following day, December 15th, the breaking fast time is 7:35 to 10:53. So for those devotees who uh, try to fast on this day, you can break your fast the following day at the time I mentioned. Also, December 22nd is the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, and December 29th is going to be Safala Ekadashi. As you all know, we have multiple platforms right now. We have our website, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, WhatsApp. You can access all of these with a single click on our Linktree page. So please do check that out when you have a chance. And also share it with all your friends and family who would like to get updates about programs happening at ISKCON Atlanta. Prayers. We request prayers for ISKCON Bangladesh, His Holiness Jeptak Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj, Her Grace Govardhan Leela Mataji, Her Grace Revati Mataji, and their family as well. All the doctors who have helped fight COVID-19, and there's so many people who we haven't been able to mention. So let's just chant the Hare Krishna Mahantra 3 times for everyone's well-being, so that we may all be able to practice bhakti together. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Hare, Hare Rama, Hare
Krishna,
Rama,
Krishna,
Rama
Krishna,
Rama,
Hare Hare,
Hare Hare.
Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna,
Rama, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Rama,
Hare
Rama
Rama,
Hare
Hare Rama, Rama
Krishna,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Rama
Krishna
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Rama,
Hare,
Rama Rama
Hare
Hare Hare.
Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Hare. Once again, devotees, we thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you all at the programs at the temple and our virtual programs. Hare Krishna.